Chinese investment in America is a hot topic in the U.S. presidential campaign, although it only accounts for a very small portion of total investment from abroad. For more on this topic, I'm joined by Ira Kasoff, Senior Counselor at APCO Worldwide, and Josh Zive, Senior Counsel at Bracewell Giuliani. Ira, let me start with you. Why is this topic such a big deal when it comes to politics? And I guess part of that second half of the question is, how much can the federal government and what role do they really play in these investments by foreign companies?
Well, to answer the second part of the question first, the federal government has become more active in trying to attract foreign investment and investment from China in the last few years. Traditionally, it's been left to the states and even the cities to try to do, but the federal government a few years ago set up an office to try to serve as a kind of a central information point for foreign companies to help them kind of navigate the waters when they're investing in the U.S. And I think that's been quite helpful for foreign companies. And in terms of the politics of this, particularly when it comes to China, and particularly in an election season as we are now, the rhetoric becomes very hot and overheated. But for the most part, I think as you could see in the previous segment, investment from China is very much welcomed in the United States, and particularly by the states and the cities who are the direct beneficiaries of the investment.
Okay, so Ira, that's a great job in framing the entire, basically, background of what we're faced with now. And Josh, you work with a lot of companies, both foreign and domestic, who look at potential Chinese investments. What is the biggest challenge that they face, and your company then plays a very significant role in helping them deal with those challenges?
Well, traditionally there can be a range of challenges, both economic and cultural, but more recently the political challenges have been daunting for some companies. That transactions in the current political environment, particularly in sectors that are considered more sensitive or critical, such as energy or high technology, have been subjected to scrutiny through a process that's referred to as the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which has that is a interagency committee that has the power to review and block or potentially unwind transactions, and also is a process that is as much political as it is legal. So sometimes transactions can get derailed or delayed or at a minimum complicated as a result of politicization out of control of any of the parties.
Ira, back in the 80s, there was a lot of talk about investment from Japan, buying up all sorts of real estate investments in the United States, and there was a significant outcry over that. How does this situation with China compare in terms of scale and also effect on the U.S. population when you compare it to what happened with Japan in the 80s?
Yeah, in some ways it's a little bit reminiscent of that. I remember the image of congressmen smashing Toshiba recorders on the steps of the Capitol, workers in Michigan smashing a windshield of a Toyota. It was quite hot. There is some of that going on now, and add to that the fact that Japan was and is an ally of the United States. China is not. China is. There are different characterizations, but a strategic competitor, not in the same category as Japan. But I think what happened with Japan is instructive for China as well, because over time, Japanese companies did a very good job of getting the word out that they were creating jobs in the United States, and
essentially that's how they softened their tone. One of the other things I want to bring up here is that in the third debate, President Obama and Governor Romney had a quite different message for the American people. It wasn't quite as tough as they were before. And both of you gentlemen, you deal with a lot with the public and also these companies. But what advice are you giving these companies? If I'm sitting in China and I own a big factory and I want to come to America and do an investment, that's going to scare a lot of people off. What do you tell those companies in China?
What I primarily tell people is that it's better to directly engage the U.S. system. And by the system, I mean both politically and in terms of communications. That getting your message out in a planned way, in a strategic way, and directly to both political officials and to the media.
So hiring lawyers, lobbying firms, and a PR agency.
Well, that's right, but you need to have a strategy to directly engage the American public so that people understand the benefits that flow from investment, not just view it as somehow kind of a undefined foreign threat. And once you do that, you can set the terms by which your transaction is discussed on Capitol Hill and in the broader public.
Ira, do you want to add to the advice that you'd give to large Chinese firms looking at the United States?
Yeah, I agree with what was just said, and I would add to that, in addition to the communications part of it, it's important to build relations with state and local government officials, with all the key stakeholders who have potential influence, and then they can be allies for the Chinese companies if they do run into political headwinds. So I think building relations both before and during the investment are very important, in addition to the communications part of the project.
Ira, Josh, thank you very much. This potentially could all change in just a few more days. I guess we'll find out. Thank you again, gentlemen, for this discussion.